as we awaken, we don't trample down the self. We rise up the self. And so what is the self? Well, if the self is that false self, often made up of this chattering, complaining, fearful thoughts, right? Then as that arises through this awakening process, and particularly as we're addressing our shadow work, then the key is to not, try to silence it, because it's pointing to what needs to be released.
My name is Hank, and this here is my buddy Joe. We're here to talk to y'all about a mighty interesting topic, non-duality. We know some of y'all might be thinking, whatchamacallit? I've never heard of it. But trust us, it's a powerful way of understanding reality and your place in it. We gonna be talking about emotions and identity and how non-duality can help us understand them in a new light. Now, we ain't no experts, but we've been studying up, and we're excited to share what we learned with y'all. Now saddle up, cinch up tight. This ain't no tenderfoot territory. You're in for a wild ride. Yeehaw!
All right, welcome to Double Barrel Non-Duality. We do this once a month for channel members at the sustaining member level and above. So the paid channel members who contribute $10 a month or more. We do this at least once a month, but I've been doing it once a month. And then we also do a live on YouTube where it's not through Zoom, but I do answer people's questions live. With the Double Barrel Non-Duality, I always invite a guest, somebody who can answer your non-duality questions, your emotion work questions, and so forth. And we've probably had, I don't know how many we've had on now, quite a few, 20 maybe, something like that. We do it every month. And this month, the guest question answerer, non-duality expert is Lisette. You want to say hi, Lisette?
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Very exciting. We'll see how it goes. I think we're going to have a good time. All right. So the thing to do is just put your hand up. The way you do that is you go to the bottom of the screen. You'll see something, I think, called a reaction. Yeah, I think that's the one. And you can put your hand up by clicking on the little hand up icon thingy. And then I'll just kind of pick people who have their hands up and we'll go through them. And we usually get to most everyone, if not everyone. And let's get started. All right. So, this is also recorded, as everybody should know. It is recorded. It does go on to YouTube. So, all right. First person with the hand up was Federico.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I've always thought that there's like a, well, not always, but recently I've started to find out that there may be a misconception in my head about what awakening does. And now that I finished your chapter on emotions, I guess the confusion was confirmed, but now I'm really confused because after reading the section on bliss states, you clearly like put in the book that like that those bliss states are not like what awakening is and what is expected and what should be pursued. And I feel like I've always like oriented to them to like know, okay, this is working, this is release, this is end of suffering. So if that is not it and the point, then I don't know what would it be and what would be the difference, for example, when I'm feeling bad emotions but equanimously and it feels like okay, I'm kind of blissful. What would be the difference between that and those bliss states that just come and go?
You're saying belief states, correct?
No, bliss.
Oh, bliss
bliss.
state. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, what is a bliss state to you? What does that mean?
Yeah. It'll be like kinda when everything feels okay, like when the constant suffering, small or big, just ends, and for a second or a minute or whatever amount of time, you're like, okay, this is nice. This is it.
Yeah. So I would say if your definition of a bliss state is for the suffering to end and for things to feel fundamentally okay most or all of the time, then I would say the answer is yes. I just wouldn't use that term bliss state myself because it's not a state. What makes the okayness clear is that you wake up from the illusion of being a separate individual that's going through a timeline experiencing states. And then because if you experience a state, you're going to cling to that state, especially if it feels good, right? But a fundamental okayness is, it's not that it feels good. It's beyond good and bad. It's not in the categories of good and bad, because the categories of good and bad will always come with baggage. And the baggage is they're always going to reference back to someone who is suffering and needs to find the good and avoid the bad. That's the one that's uncomfortable. It's the one that feels separate, the one that feels like it's trying to navigate life and kind of taking the hits and trying to get a little more of this and a little less of that. That illusion itself is what causes the suffering. So when that illusion is dispelled, you can definitely say that there's this sense of profound okayness. What we call it doesn't matter. We can label it anything, but we don't need to label it anything. Now, the other part of this that's also important for me to say is that doesn't happen in the future because it's already here. And the sense of being a someone who's moving through time to try to get to that state I'm talking about, that is an overlay. That is extra stuff going on kind of in the mind, in the thought system. And that will calm down at some point enough till that fundamental okayness shines through, because it's definitely here. It's profoundly okay. That's the best way I can say it in the moment.
Yeah, thanks.
And I know it's confusing. I know it's confusing
yeah.
to the mind, but the reason it's confusing to the mind is because the mind still will interpret anything I'm saying as like, oh, I can't wait to get that. I can't wait to have that. But it's not about having. It's about seeing through the one that wants to have, seeing through the one that wants to push and pull, that wants to maintain its own separation through engaging in a world it believes in.
Yeah. I think that helps. But then, as you say, my mind wonders then what would be like a bliss state that passes? Like what would be that orientation or wrong orientation per se to a state that will not remain? Like how would you describe that kind of state? Is just that there's a seeker involved, but then again, I wouldn't know if when I experience like peace, there's a seeker involved or not. So I wouldn't know if I'm orienting correctly.
Well, I would say the one of the signatures of that kind of bliss state, the a state that does come and go, is that it's usually, even if it feels really good, there's still something kind of back here that's trying to own the good feeling and trying to maintain it. And it's always a little afraid it's going to lose it. It's always a little afraid it's good because it knows it's not going to be there forever, because any kind of experience is transient by nature. It's all going to go. It's going to come and go. So we're interested in what it is that is just not subject to coming and going. And that is, you can realize that. You can't think about it. It's impossible, but you can realize it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I understand.
Sure. Lisette may have something to say about that as well. I don't know.
I might add, what if a bliss state actually becomes being comfortable with discomfort, what's so-called discomfort? Meaning, let's say you're in a so-called, what you're calling a bliss state, and you break your arm, right? And there's pain, and there's uncomfortable, there's discomfort, and there's financial hurdles, and you can't go to work. So there's all this stuff that's happening. So one could say there's some discomfort around this kind of so-called crises, right? And yet you're becoming comfortable and more deeply so with discomfort, because it becomes clearly recognized that those kinds of things are part of what life is. So there's not perhaps in that phase of challenge of a broken arm with no work and pain, there's not this yearning to get out of it back into a bliss state. There's just this complete deep knowing that this is perfect right now, even with all that so-called discomfort. So perhaps it's also redefining what a bliss state is.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's helpful. Thanks. Then I think I might be kind of getting what you guys say, because that's what my like sense has been at lately, like finding the good in the bad emotions, like okay, this even though it's a bad emotion still feels okay. So I think it's kind of what you guys are saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you just tune into the way we're pointing, and it may not be completely clear right now, but just tune in, let it drop in, let it adjust your experience somewhat, and attune to the part of it that does feel real, right? And you resonate with, and it'll bring you deeper into your own experience. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, great question. Okay, let's go down to the bottom for a moment. We're going to go to Jordan.
Hey, y'all. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hey, well, it's a pleasure to speak with you. And read your book like a year ago and didn't really get any of it, but for whatever reason, I've been clicking in and listening a lot to all your everything, and then on to Z-Dog and everything else. So I guess my question for today, I guess I got two things. So I finally started meditating longer than 10 minutes. I heard a guest from one of your interviews say that he pushed himself to the 30 to 45 minute. And I remember you responding that the mind can really stay busy for like 15, 20 minutes. And that clicked as a truth. So I tried it with a Adi Shanti guided meditation, and an hour blew by and I had no idea. And while in that state, there were some physical sensations that I know they're just stuff, but I'm curious about them. Like my eyes started flickering like crazy. And I've had that experience before with psychedelic mushrooms. And I remember when that happened on mushrooms, and I was not keyed into anything at the time. I was freaking out. I was like, oh God, does this mean I have cancer? I'm Googling mushrooms and eye flicker, all that stuff. And then it happens again, and that fear started to rise, and I went into it. I was like, hey, what is this? Where is it? And I said, oh, it's in my chest. Well, where in the chest? Oh, it's in my heart. Well, no, that's a heart. That's a thing. Where is it? And I finally realized it's nowhere. And I can't, I don't know, because I get it now that you guys always say there's no way to talk about it. My wife, I love her to death. She's incredibly spiritual, hasn't read a single Bhagavad Gita, a single sutra, nothing. And she speaks in this wisdom, just that. She's one of those people who doesn't like read anything or study this stuff and was just born into it and is it. And after that experience, I went to talk to her about it, and I told her I saw the visual snow. I was like, all this crazy stuff. She's like, yeah, yep, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess it's just an experience. And so many things from the last 15 years of this journey have started to click, 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 click. And I just wanted to say thank you. I guess I don't have a question. Thank you for this, because I don't know. It's just, I've never imagined. I've always been waiting, planning, wanting, whatever's next, and never been okay. And now I can be okay. I'm
Mm.
helping a buddy remodel a house right now, and I'm crying, and I wouldn't want to be anything else.
Well,
So I guess I don't have a question. I know this is a beautiful, beautiful life. And I know I'm privileged in my physical body, and I'm a white dude in America. Like, come on. And I'm grateful for that. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying thank you to anybody but myself.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you. Thank you
welcome.
for being here.
Yeah, I'm just really happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for speaking.
Mhm.
Good to see you. Enjoy your remodel.
I will.
Fun. Okay. Let's go to the middle. Didier.
Hi, Angelo.
Hey.
Hi, all people. Yeah, for me, it's like also like the same, more and more like an okayness to just be here and to open myself for everything that is coming. And I feel also in the same time like in a contraction. And I think it's still that person that wanted for a very long time to be like perfect spiritual being, or made a concept about being. And that's still there. And I try to just be open to it, and not to fight it or to it, and just to welcome it home, that openness of my heart and passion. And it's also relieving, and it feels like coming down. And I started to meditate again, also like 3-4 days ago. And that's just an enjoyment to sit down and to be. There was last week also coming that very deep loneliness, and I was thinking, but I'm connected with I'm connected with nature. I have people where I can connect with, but it was like a very old loneliness, and it was not like personal. Like I said before, I'm high sensitive all my life and very empathic. But like I feel everyone's pain and loneliness and suffering. But I see also the beauty in it, and also like a natural unfolding. And yeah, I tried to escape in every direction of my mind, and I went to very deep dark that I really thought I'm finished. But it's and burned out in one way, and I feel, and feels like a deeper and deeper incarnation of being, and no fighting anymore, no struggling, and I can sense also like discomfort that makes me also human. It's human experience, and It's nothing to fight against too. It's and also with the work that I do, with like emotional work, I can sense, I can feel the person in front of me, and I see their wholeness. I see the light, and I see also where they are, their energy is, and point to. I can guide them to that place, to that essence, to that openness, and that's where everything is revealed. I don't know how it works. It's render, I guess, in the moment, and also on everyday basis. Because I tried before also to hold on that that very large clarity that I have sometimes, and that flow of words and like wisdom that come out of my mouth and hits people directly in their core. And I try to hold it on to the next day and how and to figure it out how I lose it. But now I'm also open to the next day, and let's see what will be revealed tomorrow. Yeah, that's all I want to say now. And I don't know if you have things to say, or can say where I am, or what to do or not to do.
I was going to ask if Lisette, do you have any response?
Definitely. The brain cannot know the nature of reality, ever. And so when we kind of remember this, we can feel assured that this deepening of our being into stillness, the mind can never figure out what's happening. And so when we stop deferring to it to help us figure out what's happening, then we're kind of greatly assisting ourselves. You know, for example, someone I know is having cataract surgery, and we were looking at the surgical instructions from the eye surgeon. And believe it or not, the instructions say that on the day of the surgery, now the eye is looking through a perfectly crystal clear lens and can see 20/20 from that very moment. But even in this model of allopathic medicine, the surgeon explains to the patient the brain has a hard time adapting to seeing through a different kind of a lens. Before, the lens was clouded with cataracts. Now the lens, perhaps after decades of looking through a clouded lens, is now looking through a crystal clear lens. And even though it can see 20/20, it needs time to adapt. And so for days, weeks, even perhaps up to months, the eyes may see shimmering and shadows and flickering, and the person's calling the doctor, "What's happening? I thought I had my eyes done." And it's explained that this is all completely normal as the brain adapts to what is. And so there's this kind of, I can't, you know, this thinking part cannot understand that we're in the process of seeing through all illusion. We're in the process of seeing through all self-delusion, which, by the way, has a great degree of discomfort to go with it, usually. Because if we didn't have self-delusion, we would be awake right now. And so as we're peeling back all these layers, looking at all that has deluded us in all the ways that it does, from not being able to see, in all the ways that it manifests throughout our life, as we're kind of going through all of this phase, you know, as life presents opportunities for us to notice what is hindering us, because that's the purpose of life, right? People that annoy us, events that upset us, these are showing us what is still within us that needs to be released. And so the brain is constantly trying to figure out and label it. This is good, this is bad. Am I making progress? Am I not? Am I stalling? It can't know, but we just every day continue to unravel that which has bound us and allow the brain to adapt, and it will. And eventually kind of just falls out of the equation and we stop listening to the chatter.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I feel too. Thank you for explaining that. And it's for me, it's like now a new phase of surrendering into that unknown and to remember that, not to judge it. And I'm still clinging to something, but to really sink in that place of not knowing. There was a fear of missing out and also impatience, and I've listened thousands of YouTube videos. I'm now like 1 year anniversary connected with Angelo. I saw all those videos every day, but nothing to get, nothing new at all. And yeah, just want to be here, and that's yeah.
Angela?
Thank you, Didier. Did you have something else to say, Lisette?
No.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. The only thing I was going to add was I mean, I just sense a bit of it. There's that which is in the background. There's some thing still kind of hanging back a little bit from experience. That's that subtle self sense. And it often drops on its own, but it can also be helpful to look kind of, if it feels relevant to you, to look precisely for it in your experience, not with a ton of effort or struggle or self judgment, but just genuine curiosity. Is there actually something moving through these experiences? Is there something holding everything together? The reason I say this is you kind of mentioned, you'll have a deep experience with somebody, a connected experience with someone, and then you wonder the next day, where did it go? That's still the little bit of holding or clinging. That is the subtle self sense. It's trying to turn one experience or one moment into an identity, or trying to collect the experience, or trying to accumulate something. If you look closely, you'll see there's nothing that does that. There's no accumulating factor. There's no agent. And that can be helpful to clarify things, but they will clarify either way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, let's go to Anna Harina.
Hello.
Hello.
A couple days ago, something happened in visual field. Was watching one of your videos, and like when sitting with that relaxed gaze, a visual field kind of like softened, and there was like very, very subtle movement, and very, very, very subtle static and like snowflakes in eyes. And then it was at lunchtime, and then later I sat back at the computer and I was just like, oh, it feels like boundaries also have softened. And next thing was like thought is boundaries? What boundaries? And I was just like, oh, there is just like that's it. And then
Yes.
it's not like boundaries are gone. It's like they never actually, they can't just be found. They just not here.
Yes.
And with visual, it feels like I am in visual field, and visual field is in me simultaneously, that type of way. And it feels like that screen is here, and it's also here where head is. Like everything is that type of way. But my question is, when people talk about like, because depths and like distance is still here, I heard people talking about, that 2D experience. So is it something is coming later, or that is not happening to everyone? Or I don't know if that dimension and perception of space is something I need to investigate. So yeah, if you could.
Sure. Yeah, what you're describing is the seeing through the subject-object construct. It's when that sense of everything being set up such that there's a center subject and everything is in an array around it, like everything is in relation to this. It looks like that, and all of a sudden it doesn't look like that, and you realize it never was that way. Like, is that accurate?
It still feels like something is here, but I don't
okay.
know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And does it feel like the seeing is like the seeing is both in what's seen and what's seemingly here?
Yeah, it's kind of both ways. Yeah, it's like perception is from here, but it's also from
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So I would say like you're in a good place. That's definitely a shift. And seeing that sounds like seeing through the subject object experience from what I would describe it as. It's not the same for everyone, and it doesn't have to appear flat or anything like that. The other thing I would say is it can clarify, and the way it will clarify is any remaining sense of substance or any remaining sense of form or center, inside and outside. Those are things you can kind of investigate directly, just simply, just see like, is there actually perceptual distance anywhere? Is there any perception going out and meeting an object? Is there perception meeting form anywhere? Or is perception and form also a dualistic mental construct in the same way that the subject object was? It's like perception form is kind of like a subtler version of subject object. Is there any inherent existence to anything that appears formed? Or is the experience of an object, like something you could name like this, is the experience of that merely a concept? It's mere concept, nothing more, nothing behind it, nothing within it, nothing receiving it, the experience of it, right? It's actually empty. So you can clarify that just by looking with curiosity into your experience.
That is actually pretty clear, like in the visual, without thinking. You don't know what it is, what that is made of. There is like nothing.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Yes.
But I can apply thought and say that is walls, that is TV and things like that. But like a visual itself, you don't know what that is made of. There is,
Yes.
like nothing you can.
Yeah. So that you may have even seen through the experience of form altogether. The remaining sense of self could be that what feels like something here. If you look for it with precision, you probably aren't going to find it, but it still can be valuable to keep looking, even if you don't know where you're looking. Like just the subtle sense of it. What is it made out of? You can also sort of see you've realized this in the visual field, which is great because that's often the hardest. But you can also investigate it in the physical sense, in the same way that you would look out and see an object and say, "Oh, I usually would perceive that's a picture on the wall, but now I actually see that's just a placeholder for something that doesn't exist. It's a placeholder that's practical, so I can communicate it to someone, but it has no intrinsic reality, and you know that in direct experience now." Do the same thing with the physical sense. The sensation that feels like the center of you, go see if it's actually there. What makes it there any more than it's over there or over there or over here? Like look for that synesthetic experience, meaning the sensation of a body sensation, the sensation of a visual experience. Can you actually differentiate? Is there a differentiating? Right, exactly. So you can clarify that probably, but you may not even have to. At this point, it's just a matter of just spontaneous, clear seeing and enjoyment of that. You can also ask yourself, is there a process? Is there a process of seeing at all? Because sometimes it can be like you can see that the scene is actually not existing, and it's not actually existing, and it's not over there or over here. It doesn't exist on its own side, and nothing here exists on its own side. So there's just this process of seeing. Then you can kind of look and see, is there actually a process? Is there any seeing going on? Or is there just what appears? Mere appearance. That's a subtle distinction, but it's a different insight. So all of those are ways you could kind of just play with this. And you may not have to. Could all just fall apart in a second or tomorrow or whatever. Who knows?
Thank you.
Kind of cool, huh? Have you had
Fun.
to deal with any like emerging trauma coming up without these boundaries?
Oh yeah, like last like 6, 7, 8 months, it was just like wild. Like emotional work was wild. It was
Mhm.
just like it just felt like it's opening and it's in deeper and more opening and even deeper and like deeper and deeper
Yes.
and deeper. I was just like, and it was so much like body shaking, and sometimes it was just like complete like energetic releases without no stories. Sometimes there was just, you know, like really clearly like stories and like IFS approach, like Susan and all that. Yeah, like a
Beautiful.
lot of that. It was just like for that period of time, it was just like trauma, trauma, trauma. It was just like nothing else. It was just like that in your face,
Yeah.
screaming, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." Yeah, it was
Yes.
a lot of that done.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So I want, the reason I asked this is mostly because I assume that's the case. But for anyone watching this, people often hear the non-duality part and they're like, oh, that's really cool. But they don't want to do that part. They don't think that's related, but it's directly related. The trauma, or the keeping trauma at bay, suppression of experience, suppression of emotion, call it trauma or don't call it trauma. That's what is actually making it so it's hard to see clearly. You can't see clearly because that's causing so much reactivity in the system and polarity in the system. So these go hand in hand. What you just said was beautiful. It's like so perfect because that's exactly it. In your face, not comfortable in any stretch. It's not fun. It's confusing. It feels like it's never going to end and you don't want it. And there it is. You know, it's so full on. And yet it is part of this process. So good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lisette, do you have anything to add or say?
You know, the shadow work, the looking at that which has been suppressed and has not been seen through and looked at, that is the work, right? And so, you know, if we imagine that we're an energy system running through the body, and that energy system has repressed and hidden all that has bothered us, upset us, has traumatized us, and that we have stored in our energy system. So, you know, the job is to now have that all arise, by the way, through life circumstances. As it arises, we see it. Oh, there's something else. And as we use the tools that we have, whether it's meditation or TRE, trauma release exercise, or whether it's Sedona method or whatever we're using, as that arises and we're able to look at it without flinching and to release it, then the energy, the new energy, so to speak, rushes in to replace it. And so as that happens, there's a different kind of clear seeing, which can look like maybe now our visual field is becoming pixelated or shimmering. And it's because the energy system within us is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger over so-called time, even though there is no time, but we're using what we can to describe it. And so this process of seeing through all the stored trauma that has kept us from really realizing the truth of ourselves, it really is, and I'm referring back to something I had said earlier, it's becoming comfortable with discomfort, because that is the path. It's becoming comfortable with looking over and over and over again that which we have not wanted to see through, that which we have put aside. No, I can't go there, through all the tools that we have. And as it releases, now we may start to have really interesting bodily sensations. Our visual field may become changed or pixelated because this new energy system now is rushing through the chakra system and rushing through us. And it may feel a little strange. It may feel weird. Maybe it feels wonderful. But this is now the shift that's starting to happen. And so it's beautiful. Keep going and don't stop.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Can I ask
Okay.
a quick question, Angelo?
Yes.
Is it because I'm doing now that deeper emotional work? Is it also when there is the non-dual shift that is coming more, or is it progressive, or how can you describe it?
Typically,
Is it,
yes. Yeah.
yeah?
Yep. Everybody's different. Some people, it's like one shift and it's just non-dual. Some people kind of comes in phases, like a subject-object shift, then a sort of shift into like this experience of no world, no inside, no outside, formlessness. But everybody's different. Some people, it kind of just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And just when they think things can't become emptier, they just suddenly do. So it's just different for everyone. I wouldn't like try to plan it or map it. Let it play out for you. Awesome. Okay. Let's go to Lubina.
Hey, Angelo.
Hello, hello. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So I want to share, I had some kind of a shift recently. So I want to share the shift, and then I kind of want to share a little bit about how it kind of came about. The the shift itself is like, I'm really seeing how if you don't grasp any thoughts, it's just all open. That's all there is. Just opening and opening and opening and opening. And that's all there is. And in this opening, you can't hide from anything. And you don't want to, because why would you? It's so loving, this opening. Even the contraction, the hard, because I recently had that too, you know, where it's part of how I came to it was going through what felt like another death experience. I've had like a few at this point. It feels like it just seems to be how this process works for me, you know? And yeah, even that is so loving in the way that it does it. It's just opening you up. It's like a flower blooming. You had a post about flowers today. And then the thoughts want to come in, and if you don't grasp them, everything is just the way it is. And you're not located anywhere unless you think you are, or even that I am. Like there's none of that. It's just gone.
Mm,
It's wild how that
Swaha.
happened.
Beautiful.
It's wild how that happened. So to speak a little bit about how it did happen, kind of want to share. I had a few people reach out to me after my sharing last time, and including Violet. So she was part of this. Like she really helped me a lot and this is where I was sort of censoring myself, because there's that need for being liked and validated and so on. But as beautiful as Lisa's answer was to what I had shared, it didn't meet me where I was, you know? And Violet did. She met me exactly where I was. And that kind of gave me permission to feel this sense of, because I come from like a lot of trauma, like a lot of people, you know, this sense of not feeling safe, you know, and how like it just doesn't feel safe to let that openness come through totally and completely, you know. And I had so much fear come up. Like I don't think I've ever felt this amount of fear, and I felt quite a bit of fear, and I've had, like I said, a few death experiences at this point, but this one felt very different, you know, because there wasn't like a fear release. It was more just like going into deepening into the fear itself. And just like nothing, there wasn't any like specific process, you know, and it just kind of started to feel safe. And I felt I felt very I think I felt safe because I was met where I was, you know. So without rejecting, I mean, it's not that Lisa rejected what I said about the psychic realm. She just, it's not her thing, and I understand that. But that's kind of where I needed to be met, because that was my experience. Still is every now and then. And now I see from this space of openness, or I don't even know how to call it, right? It's not really a space, you know, unless I label it then it's a space. From here, it's okay to investigate that too. Even that appearance is part of it. And even that doesn't feel like I need to push it away, because that takes effort for me to do. It takes me effort, effort. Like it feels like effort, you know, to push away the psychic realm, to push
Yeah.
away where these experiences are. So if I'm in, it's just so hard to explain. It's like, just don't grasp a thought. That's it.
Yeah.
Like it's just, is it really that fucking simple?
Welcome to my world.
Is it really that simple? I've been going through the whole day going like, oh, there I am. Now I'm in thought now. Oh, wait, what? No, like, huh? You know, it's just so bizarre, actually. It's really bizarre. And not just that, even what's even more bizarre, if you could call it that, is just sort of like this force called awakening really doesn't give a shit about what you got going on. Just has like, does not give a shit. You know, it comes when it comes, it takes over when it does. It's just like, whoa, you know, and you have to surrender, because it's not like you're gonna have a choice. It's just gonna do what it wants, you know. Here I was, I'm like, I'm gonna plan this and I need to do that, and my survival fears and my money fears, they're not gone, but I see they're just a thought.
Yeah.
And then today I was watching one of the videos you had in about from the retreat. Was it in Laos or Taos? Sorry, my mind.
Taos.
Taos, thank you. And in that you said something about stop, and I was like, oh, that's what this pointer is. Just stop. Just stop. Don't grasp the
Is that
thought.
beautiful?
I'm like kind of blown away. So I want to say thank you to Violet. I don't know if she's here, but I'm gonna text her. But it's just like, wow, you know, thank you for
I'm happy
meeting
for you.
where, yeah, I'm kind of blown away by this. And it's just like, what is, can't.
You know, when I realized that, what you're describing, like when that exact insight dawned on me, this weird line from the Bible kept coming through my mind. I never read the Bible or anything, but I just heard quotes here and there. And it was, have you suffered so many things in vain? Like, have you suffered so many things in vain because you were thinking about it? I was like,
I
no
never
way.
meet anybody how they are. You just meet this like thought projection and the how yeah, I'm a little bit like jaw dropped today.
Yeah. And then you can meet everything all the time exactly as it is, because it's not filtered by thought. Like nothing has any special significance, but then all of a sudden it's like opens the lens to everything right in front of your face. Everything is infinitely significant now. Doesn't matter what it is. It's so beautiful. Such a gift, endless gift from the universe.
There is a fear that it's gonna kind of like go back somehow, you know. Somehow I'm gonna like start grasping thoughts and become a contracted ball and have to like go through another death. And I'm like, oh, that's also a thought. That's great.
Yep.
Just great.
Yeah. You know, Gary Weber boils this down pretty simply. You know, he kind of says in one of his lectures or online, he has this a video about this, and he said he talked to an ayahuasquero one time, somewhere in South America, I guess, or whatever. Maybe he wasn't in South America, but the guy was from South America. And he told him, he said, in the end, it's all about having no thoughts, which can be interpreted as there are no thoughts, or it can be interpreted as exactly what we're talking about. When you see through thoughts, when you see through the binding of a thought in and of itself is nothing. It's a ghost. The moment there's a belief in that thought that feels like I'm the believer and the sufferer of that thought, then it's not a thought anymore. It's a reality that you're buying into suddenly. Then you can just let go like that. Magic. You're the wizard now. Or you're the, witch, or however you want to say it. Like that the magician is you. That the magician, but no one can give you permission to do this. You have to do it for yourself. You have all that power to just let go of all of it.
You said something in that video from the retreat in Taos, which is you create the problem with the thought, and then you're like trying to use thought to solve it, and you're like, just stop. You just don't have to do that. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yep.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, is this a cosmic, is this what you guys call a cosmic joke? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty bizarre. Oh, really? It was that simple? I mean, I don't mean to make it sound not simple. I mean, I'm sure I mean, I've talked to you, so
Mm.
the
Mhm.
shadow work is real and
Exactly.
and deep, but it's been going on for me for quite a long time. So like coming
Mhm.
to this, I'm like, what? This was it?
Mm.
So
Yay.
yay.
Svaha.
Thank you.
The line from the Heart Sutra always stands out to me. Rid of the fear. Oh, excuse me. Freed from delusive hindrance. Delusive meaning thought-based, hindrance meaning feeling stuck. Freed from delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it.
Hmm. That's it.
Mm.
That'd be summed up better. You
Mm.
know.
In Zen, they use these very simple terms. One of them is a fish slipping through the water. So simple.
Hmm.
Nothing is held, nothing is accumulated. No problem. Just moving through the water.
Yeah, nothing ever got accumulated. That was also a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Thank you. And
Thank
thank you.
you. I love it. Okay, let's go to Richard.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow. I've been sitting here feeling very nervous and knowing there's no reason to be. I texted you many, probably months ago now. I experienced what do you call it? Existential night of terror one time, and I thought this was a big change, and I still don't know if it was. But, and I won't go into detail, but it's like I could suddenly see my persona, the script, the story of me on one side, and kind of an empty space on the other side, and I was still in my chair, and the script was calling to me with a lot of power, a lot of like a magnetic attraction that I had to hold on to it because, it had, it I would know where I stood with it, And anyway, it felt like like it was a really clear time. And since then, I've kind of gone all over the place. I've been able to meditate and be in a place, a calm place, and yet my life seems like constantly suffering. I still feel everything is heavy. I can't, I know when my mind is weighing me down, and I know that it's thought, and I can't seem to get rid of it. I have a handful of friends, and when I'm feel good when I'm with them, and then all of a sudden, when I leave, I suddenly feel lonely again. I feel like I don't connect with people like I think I really want and really is possible. And I can point to things like my childhood where I didn't feel like anyone had my back, and so I learned not to trust. I learned that I had to take care of myself, and I did it in a way that was like a bubble, protecting myself constantly. And I'm working on it, and I feel like I'm making progress. And sometimes I'll feel like I have, and then other times I feel like I haven't made any progress. And you talk about the waking up as something that you can't mistake. And sometimes I feel like I have woken up, and other times I feel like I haven't at all. I don't know. I just feel I'm suffering way too much, and I don't have any physical reason to say that I'm suffering. It's not a physical pain. It's all psychological. And I feel like I know all of the cognitive things that I've seen so many of your videos, and others too, but I just, I see people that are, even some that just spoke, that are so happy, and you can see the joy in their mannerism. And I said, why can't I have that? And it's and I try to face whatever feelings I have. I try to get into my body, my sense gates of the body, and I can do it sometimes, and yet, I don't know. I'm all over the map. And I don't, and you talked in your video this morning, you talked about being disoriented, and I do feel disoriented in many ways. And I don't know if things may be happening, and I just don't know. But it seems like it's very frustrating. I'm very, very frustrated. And I try to do all the things that get me in that direction, and I know, like you say, they're pointers. They're not going to make it happen. And so, anyway, I guess I'm tired of it. That's it.
I can tell, yeah. Okay, well, thanks for sharing everything. Let me see if Lisette, did you want to start?
Sure.
Richard, can you say something so she can see your face instead of mine?
Oh, yes. Hello.
Hi, Richard. The Bhagavad Gita says, as we awaken, we don't trample down the self. We rise up the self. And so what is the self? Well, if the self is that false self, often made up of this chattering, complaining, fearful thoughts, right? Then as that arises through this awakening process, and particularly as we're addressing our shadow work, then the key is to not, try to silence it, because it's pointing to what needs to be released. So I get the sense that the TRE, trauma release exercise, would be very helpful for you. Chris Guimond on this channel, she works with people with that. But particularly as that shadow work is just starting and is starting to arise, there is going to be all that you describe. There's going to be all these feelings, all kinds of feelings of discomfort, loneliness, sadness, existential fear. All of this starts to surface because we're now looking what has not been seen. And so this is why these tools that we use and that we're coached through on this channel and others is so important and so helpful. So we're going through this journey into the depths that is like into this quagmire of stuff that we haven't looked at, that we haven't seen, and now is asking to be released. And so to have a helper, a guide, a tool to work through that as it arises and then goes ever deepening. And so I think there's this idea that at some point when the self-sense falls away, we're done. We're perfect. We don't have to do anything else. But it becomes more, the work becomes subtler and subtler and subtler. And so the energy system is increasing and becoming more and more potent and powerful as we become and we align truly with this universal energy, which is what we are. And so to adopt now a regular practice of working with this and releasing it, I think might be very helpful for you, rather than simply suffering with it.
Yeah, I've been working with Christina, and I've done some TRE, and I did it for a few months, and it just didn't seem to do anything, or I don't know, maybe I wasn't doing it long enough or something, but
And interestingly, if you're now feeling the effects of what the TRE does, which is to root it out, to root out what we haven't looked at, it's kind of interesting that it's now showing up, which is what it went to excavate. See? So you went in to start excavating, and now it's arising, and now this is really where the work can continue, where you fully look at it and release it.
yeah, it's not, I kind of feel like what I'm doing is, I don't know. It's just all so confusing. I feel like I try not to, like if something very sad or whatever, any kind of feeling negative, what I would call negative feeling, I try not to look away from it. I try to go into it, and it sometimes gets better. But every morning I wake up and especially in the morning, my mind seems very susceptible. I mean, my consciousness is very susceptible to what my mind is saying, which is usually negative. And and after I get going, I feel better. And it's not like I have a bad life. It's just there's no depth to it. I don't feel. I guess one of the biggest feelings I have is I don't belong anywhere, and I've always felt that way. I just don't belong. And
So, all of these uncomfortable emotions that arise, this is what we normally don't think of as the beauty of having incessant thoughts. Right? The beauty of having incessant thoughts is to keep pointing to the work that has yet to be done. Right?
yeah,
And so this is what that passage from the Bhagavad Gita refers to. It's now you're using it to rise up the self by using these thoughts that are pointing to all this stuff that is blocking clear seeing. So whatever it is, if it's not feeling belonging or feeling lonely or suffering or fear, they're all the many facets of stored trauma that needs to be seen through. And so keep going to release it, because even though we're looking at it, so many of us look at it but don't release it. It's the releasing of it where the real discomfort is, because there's a certain nuance to releasing it. It's beholding it without flinching. Beholding it without flinching as it arises. And that's where all of these tools really can be so helpful, because there can be full on degrees of trauma or sobbing, or as it's actually, we're beholding it and we have these beautiful tools to help us. But just thinking about it is not releasing it, or just becoming aware of it is not releasing it.
yeah.
Lisette, can you say more about that? Yeah, that distinction is really, really important. I love how you're describing the difference between becoming aware of the emotion and releasing it. And you described being willing to experience it without flinching. Can you go into more depth on that? Just because I know this is hugely important, and it's very easy to overlook. Many people really have trouble with this, I notice.
You can't know how many hours of trauma release exercise I used. Hours and hours and hours, even hours when I was told, don't do that much. Or I fully immersed myself in the experience. I figured if it's going to kill me, just kill me, because what's the point of suffering and continuing to suffer? And so this process of using this method, TRE, which I have so much experience with, Chris taught me this and worked with me on this, and I really didn't like it when I started. I was doing eye rolls like, this is the dumbest, stupidest thing. What a waste of time. I admit to having those thoughts. When I first learned it, I was like, this is not going to do anything. You know, this is so dumb. And only because I had learned that life shows us what to do next. Chris showed up. She says, do this. And I was rolling my eyes. All right, I'm going to do it. And I kept with it. And whoa, the layers started peeling away. And it was so uncomfortable. And I hated it. Why did I hate it? Because that's the false self saying, don't go there. It's a waste of time. It's not really going to do anything. Don't bother. You know, if I just do something, you know, so I just stayed with it. And actually, the reason why I stayed with it was because I was so curious as to why my thoughts hated it so much. My thoughts hated it. And I started saying, whoa, what if there's something there? What if there's something there that it hates it so much? And so I kept at it. I kept at it and I increased it until I was at the point where it was safe for me to do daily. And I even redoubled that. And every time there was a discomfort, I don't care where I was, if I was in the grocery store, if I was in my car, and life is going to bring you discomfort. That is the purpose of it, because the purpose is to awaken. How do we awaken? We have to clear the shadow. So when life happens and something upsets us and bothers us, and it's going to happen, that's when we use our techniques and use our tools and notice the discomfort and then release it. So I could be in the grocery store, in the car, and I would use the tremoring, even if I could only use my arms, and I would release it then and there. And if I couldn't do it then and there, I'd do it as soon as I could. And so I used it a lot when I didn't want to, when I thought it was boring, when I thought it was stupid. I've done TRE on the telephone. Like, I didn't want to do it so badly. I was checking my emails while I was doing it, right? But I did it.
Yeah.
And it turns out you don't have to think when you're doing it. You can just do it. But the greater point here is there is it's such a dichotomy to awakening, because the very things that we resist, ironically, are the very things that will get us deep into the discomfort, which of course there's going to be a resistance to. If there weren't a resistance, it wouldn't be suppressed, right? It's suppressed because we don't want to look at it. And as the layers deepen and deepen and deepen, and oh my gosh, it gets more subtle and more beautiful. And it's the wisdom of life in showing us what needs to be released is so profound. The profundity of the wisdom of how things show up right on time in order to be released, it just brings me to tears. It is just incredible. So trust life. Trust life to be showing you, this is up for me right now. This upset. Somebody said this. Somebody did that. This is where the work is. And do the work, and you will find clear seeing.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah,
It's-
powerful. I wanted to reflect just a couple of points when Lisette said she hated it, but her thoughts hated it, and she knew that there must be something there, or at least she was curious, is there something there? This is, to me, critical. This is the sort of warrior spirit or the adventurer's spirit, or even the rebel, like the rebel. Like sometimes I've said, what made me wake up was rebellion. I was rebellious against suffering. I was rebellious against thoughts. It didn't make sense. Why am I suffering these thoughts? What's going on there? It doesn't make sense. I need to dig into it. Yeah. And so there's something about something more than just like, okay, I'm waiting for grace, something more than, I just want to feel in a bliss state all the time. Like those motivations are in us. We're humans. We're going to have some motivations like that. But we also have this ability to discern, this ability to go, well, wait a minute. This isn't an alignment. My experience of thoughts, my experience of emotion right now, maybe my relationships, they're not in alignment with my deeper instinct about truth. That there's a way to live life that doesn't just feel like struggle, doesn't just feel like self-doubt constantly. There's got to be something else. Trust that. Trust it and let it lead you where it needs to lead you, even if it's directly into the most uncomfortable place. In fact, truly, most of the time, much of the time, when we talk about shifts, when we talk about in awakening, um, identity alterations and things that happen, it's really when people finally just go into that last place they want to go. When they finally just go right into something so fully that it does release, something does change, something does fundamentally let go. And, so that's my reflection of what Lisette said. It was beautiful. I also want to say to you a couple things that are along similar lines. One is, as I was listening to you talk, I thought it could be helpful for you to really make a study of emotion in your own experience, meaning as you're going through these things, slow down, unpack what's actually happening. Maybe you have to write it down. Maybe you have to label the emotions because you may feel resentment stuck with frustration, stuck together with a kind of like a sort of learned helplessness. Like I'm just throwing my hands up. I don't know what the hell to do, you know, with confusion. How do those feel different to you? How does confusion feel? Learn about it. Learn from yourself. Learn from the emotion. How does it feel to feel confused? How does it feel to feel frustrated? How does it feel to feel angry? I want you to get to your anger too, because it's in there. You got to get to those intense emotions that have been really repressed. How does it feel to feel sad? What's the difference? How does the body move? Maybe use movement. Get up and move around as sadness. These are things we do like in say acting classes or improv classes as exercises. We move as sadness moves. How does that feel? How does your face feel? How do your hands feel? How does your chest feel? How does it feel to feel rage, right? How does that feel? Maybe get up, like I said, get up and move, like process it through your body, get in touch with these different emotions because when they're all kind of stuck together and kind of vaguely defined, it becomes this feeling of, it's like an ambivalence. That's kind of what I feel when I listen to you is like a sense of ambivalence. I don't know what to do. I don't know how much I care or don't care. I don't really know where to put my energy. Wherever I put my energy, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. Right. That's to me the feeling of having a lot of emotions that are kind of sort of almost competing for your attention, but they're not getting it fully. No emotions fully getting it. And so there's different ways to go about this: relational work, movement work, your own studying of this stuff, but don't do it in your head because it gets muddy in the head. Do it through writing or verbalization. Talk to these emotions, talk to these parts of yourself, sort it out, find out what's actually going on, and discuss it in the relational field. Right? You said you have good friends. I know you have good friends. You have good support. Bring it into the conversations when you're interacting with people. Tell people how you're feeling about the interaction. If you're feeling left out, tell them. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know, but bring it into the conversation. Just say, hey, listen, I'm not putting this on anyone. I'm not trying to necessarily draw attention to myself. I just want help processing something. For some reason in this moment, I feel like not a good enough. I'm not enough. I don't know why I feel this. I don't even believe it necessarily, but there's something here. Can we talk about it? That's just an example. But you have a lot of resources. Get creative. Take on some of that adventurer's spirit, even a rebellious spirit. You're not here to suffer. Get a little upset about it. Get a little mad about it. I'm not here to suffer, damn it. Like, I'm tired of it, right?
Yeah.
Trust that part of yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned improv. Many years ago, before I even started meditating, I tried that once and I was so petrified. I mean, totally petrified. I couldn't even.
Maybe take it up again.
That
You
would be
you can get beyond that for sure. You can get beyond the fear of it for sure. And sometimes I'll tell you for improv specifically, you can often find drop-in classes cheap and so forth that are very basic. But with improv, what I find interesting is the people who do the best at it once they get it are introverts. It's introverted people that are really good at improv because they're the ones that sit back and watch. They watch behavior, they watch people, they make a study of it. They understand human motivations, even though they're kind of withdrawn. And all of a sudden, if you give yourself permission to play that role, a role that's in you, but you've just been suppressing it, it can be therapeutic.
Yeah, that would be a challenge for sure.
Well,
Okay.
what else are we going to do, in this body, on this planet, other than challenge ourselves? Why not?
Well, it's
Really.
not working the way it is, so got to do something.
There you go. Good. Report back. Let us know how it goes. Try some different things.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay. Let's go to Taman, I think. That's how you say that.
Is that me?
Yeah. Can you say your name?
Tim. I didn't. It's got my last name
Tim. Okay,
bunched
Tim.
in there for some reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hi, Tim.
Hey. Nice to see you. I think a lot of what was just said is really helpful and applies to me. I guess I'm just there's both the want to really move towards the fear and then a really strong want to push that away.
Is it there right now? Might just say this, just for a moment, just don't do anything to mitigate the fear. Don't try to hold it at bay. Don't do anything to it. Just let everything be exactly as it is right now. See what happens.
Yeah, it feels fine. Feels okay for a tiny bit, and then I guess there's still something jumping on it and trying to grasp it and explain it. And that's, I guess, how this whole thing has felt for me, maybe for the past year, just that there's a lot of opening and closing.
What are you afraid of will happen if you open completely to that fear?
I don't know, just that I won't be able to have any say, any last bit of control. I still love hearing all of these messages about letting go, but it's still, oh, that's great if I let go and if I make that decision, then everything will be okay. But it feels like this part that you're talking about, I have to get rid of all of that as well, and that feels, yeah, scary.
Yeah. I mean, you don't necessarily have to get rid of anything. You just won't know. Which you just can't know. But I can't say anything beyond that because it's unknowable. But what I can ask is this: what is the cost of not letting go?
It feels better. It feels like that's freedom. So in a sense, I'm not sure why I resist that.
What is the cost of resisting it? What is it costing you to not let go?
It feels like that's not here now. It feels like I need to do something.
Do you feel like
I
there's
hear
a
what you're saying.
significant? Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you feel like there's significant like suffering in holding on or struggle?
It feels like I really need to hold on. It feels like I know that's not
You may be cutting out.
a
I think we might have lost. Did we lose him?
maybe.
Oh, there you are.
Hey.
Okay, sorry. Whatever the last question I asked, I don't think I heard the answer because I
Okay.
think there was a signal issue.
Yep. Yes, I'm not sure what how much was missed, but just saying that I really want to really want to let go. Also, really don't want to let go. It just feels like the holding on has been so essential for me, and it feels like that's what's gotten me through. I know I have to lose that at some point, but yeah.
Yeah. I might have more to say, but let's see what Lisette might have to say as well.
You know, I found that there is a particular rhythm to what we keep saying, what is letting go. And once it's experienced fully, it's kind of like that moment when you're learning to ride a bike and all of a sudden, voila, you're just floating down the sidewalk. But once letting go actually happens truly and fully the first time, and it's known, this is it. This thing called surrender or letting go, in that moment when the discomfort is peaking, whether it's existential terror, and wow, did I have a lot to go through. I had so much childhood trauma, so much lifetime trauma. So for me, it was one letting go after another. But once I really, really went through it fully the first time, where I just let go, and the release was so powerful. There's almost a language to it. There's a nuance to it. There's a rhythm to it. And then you feed on that. Then that becomes your inner source. That becomes what drives you, looking for those moments where you can again let go. Because in that letting go, that's where the power is. And then you're looking for them because you know what's on the other side of it.
Yeah, I felt it a little bit when you were talking to the last person. I think there was like a fear feeling throughout a lot of this, knowing that I was going to speak at a certain point. And I can't even remember what you said, but it felt like for a second I was able to just feel it without, like there was always an awareness, but the awareness was still trying to keep it at bay a little bit. And then you said something that helped me just feel it. But I will say I feel like I've lost that again.
You know, the keeping it at bay is what we're all doing. We're not doing anything else but that, right? And so when that dawns on us that we're just keeping it at bay machines until we're not, once we really realize that, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is keeping everything that's uncomfortable at bay. By the way, at the cost of clear seeing. And so when we really understand the nuance of what now we're doing. We're unraveling that in our, with our cohorts, in our spiritual community. We're joining together and we're together agreeing, this is what we're doing. We're going to dive in to the murky water and we're going to let go at all costs, one moment at a time. We're not doing it all at once. Those who do awaken all at once, maybe we don't want to do that, because this way we can stay in our life and awaken comfortably, in a so-called progression. And this is the beauty of the work. And we have the capacity to let go fully. And life doesn't give us, doesn't present more than we can let go at any one particular phase. And so it's so beautiful to have comrades on this journey, because we all recognize we have to do this work by ourselves, but yet we can join hands and encourage each other to keep going and don't look back and don't stop. And sometimes we can't really discuss with others what we're doing, because it is at times incomprehensible to others who are not yet ready to look. And that's fine. It says it should be. Everybody has their own readiness, right? And so even people in close family members, one person in a couple can be awakening fully and the other person has no interest. And so here we go on the path, looking for that definition, looking for that rhythm of what is it to let go fully at all costs. Just take me. It's better than suffering. Let's just see. If it kills me, so be it. And it doesn't kill us. It awakens us. It makes us alive. And therein is the great paradox.
Beautiful.
Tim, yeah, Lisette said it extremely well. The only thing I have to add in particular about what you said at the beginning is I feel to say, like, get some leverage on yourself. And the leverage could be in the form of just asking yourself, what is the cost of continuing to not let go? What is the cost of continuing to struggle with myself and not really open that door fully? Maybe you're opening it part way, but there's that fear and something still wants to hold on. By just asking yourself, what is the cost of that though? What is that costing me day to day? What is the feeling of having to hold on all the time? I don't know what it is for you, but it could be, for me, it was exhausting. It was confusing. For me, it was like holding my own head underwater. It was just so uncomfortable. And yet there was something habitually doing it that wasn't even me, really. I knew that. So the cost was high for me. But sometimes it's helpful just to get that leverage on yourself and see, like, what is the cost of not really just plunging into this? That can be helpful. Just keep looking closer. Okay, who else do we got here? Aaron.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, sure can. How you doing?
Hi, Angelo. How you going? Hello, Lizette. So for me, I just wanted to say that my process. I started looking into getting curious about awakening back in 2002. I joined a mystical order called the Ancient Mystic Order of Melchizedek back then, and it was a land where people used to come from all different parts of the world and chant Om. We had Om chants, and we got together in just in spiritual congruency with each other. And it was helpful, but I felt that it was a stage based on what I'm understanding now about who I am. So leaving shortly after that, about a few years later, I went back into the world and just totally forgot about everything that I was learning with that spiritual fraternity or that fraternity back then, and just went back into worldly affairs. And I started seeing the number 911 over and over again for many years, maybe for like 15 years, to the point where I felt I was being harassed by like some type of spiritual entity or something, because it was just a number that I've constantly noticed. I always kept it to myself, but I used to see it all the time for many years. And I still do see the number 11, but the number 9 changes from 7 to 6 to 4. It goes from 4, 7, 6. It changes a lot, just keeps changing. And so I felt that, I feel that that is myself calling me back home to who I truly am. And it was trying to call me back a long time ago, or awaken the ego from the ego identification into who I truly am. But I just really couldn't understand it back then, because I always questioned it. But I didn't have anybody to question it to. So I would, question it to myself, and it just be puzzled by it for many years. But now I can really have an understanding of what that meant. So as I came, is now I'm moving more into who I truly am, and accepting who I truly am. I feel like at work I get harassed a lot. Not really harassed, but what's the word? Not. It seems like I've been going through a lot. Like a lot of coworkers and especially supervisors, they seem to favor everybody else except for me. It's like, and I feel like, it's I feel like that event, and it made me very depressed, and I went through a lot of anxiety for a long time. I couldn't work, even though I had to make money, but it was something that I really didn't understand why it was happening to me. It felt like it was just focused on me. Like I wasn't, like I was, what's the word? Indirectly picked on, not really paid any attention to. Everybody else was, except for me. Felt like everybody else was given acceptance, accepted into the group, except for me. And I complained about it to managers, and it was just a long thing for like maybe 6 years, and it was like really intense. It's calmed down over the years, but I feel like as if that was something that I have to really work through and accept, that it's okay, that it's it's a it's a way of me showing myself that that there's something that I'm not accepting, that I'm not really accepting, that everything is okay, to stop judging, don't have any judgment, don't look at things as a good or a bad thing, just accept what is. There's nothing wrong, everything is perfect. It's me coming back into identification of who I really am. I'm still learning that. I'm still understanding that. And then there's other things too. I've been having like mind attacks from my wife, who's not on the same path. I mean, she's not on the awakening process. So she has a lot of anxiety, and she goes through, she doesn't show it. She suppresses that a lot. And, or the body who's calling herself me, his wife. I shouldn't say my wife, but she is. So she's. But again, that's just a lesson it's teaching me of who I am, and that's how I look at it. Just to accept what is. Everything is fine. It's a process of accepting and releasing negative things that are going through, negative things that I'm experiencing, just negative thoughts, negative emotions, to just let it go and accept what is. It's all lessons for me to learn, for me to come back into who I truly am. Even my immediate family members, such as my wife, or what appears to be a wife of mine, is showing me that. I guess like my question is, what tips, like I have a couple of questions. What is there any tips for like dissolving judgment? Because that seems to be a challenge for me right now. Just having judgment, even though I try not to judge, but sometimes it's really difficult, especially when I encounter a situation, when there's an encounter, when there is an encounter of a situation of the body, and it's something being trying to, like, there's a disagreement with the body, and I seem to have these visceral feelings of just why is that happening to me, or to the body? Why is that happening? Why is this happening? Why is this person not in congruence with me, or or and it brings up anger, it brings up feelings of resentment, it brings up and then I try to keep it at bay, but I'm trying to just let everything be, but sometimes it's very difficult because sometimes certain situations, people, events just comes to the body and tries to um seems like tries to keep things into, I don't know how can I explain it, tries to disrupt what seems to be going well, or tries to provoke something negative into the situation. I feel like that's what happens with people, events, circumstances. So is there anything that I can do to dissolve judgment of people, events, circumstances, situations, so that I don't have any visceral negative attachments towards, emotional attachments towards that, towards people, events, circumstances? And what kind of like trauma release exercises can I do? Because I'm having problems finding like somewhere where I can go to release certain things that trauma that still comes up at certain times, even though I know that it's just a way of me integrating of who I am into one whole, but sometimes it's like an attachment to certain feelings that I try to, identify and de-identify with at that time. And and can you explain? Yeah, so yeah, it was just basically those two things.
Yes, thank you so much. Lisette, would you like to start?
From my experience, one of the greatest gifts that can be bestowed on us is to feel like an outcast or to feel rejected in our community, meaning our work community, our family, our culture, our neighborhood. When that comes up, where we feel rejected or an outcast in our community, however that community is, that is pointers, which, by the way, is reinforced by your 911. This is an emergency. Tend to this right now. This is where your work is. It seems to me. This is the work. And as it's arising and as the discomfort and pain is arising, it may be that this is a huge block within you that is asking to be released. It may be beyond the scope of this answer, but interestingly enough, throughout my life, I had reasons to have many so-called near-death experiences where the body seems to, the spirit seems to be able to go out of the body. I didn't have a medical emergency. I had something else happening. I had some profound paranormal experiences in which I actually traveled to the interlife being where the soul goes when the body dies. And in that experience, I witnessed how we choose a body and come into a lifetime, and yet we are not without the baggage from all of the other experiences that we've had. And so as things in this life arise to trigger all that pain, and one that you describe seems very heavy and important to look at, it could be attached to more trauma than you can imagine. because the trauma may be not one thing. It's not like there's one thing that happened to it. It's all linked together by vibrational commonality. And so this work now is so important. When something happens like this, where at work you feel looked over or cast aside, this is showing you now, do release this, do work on this. And that just means finding a time. And if you're not doing TRE, the point is that you're sitting with this and letting it work through your heart. You know, the heart is so blocked. That's why our heart is not open. You know, we're working to open our heart. Why isn't it open? Because it's compressed and filled and suppressed by all of this unmet trauma, upset, resistance. And so as we're looking at it one at a time, we're releasing it through our heart. And if it was stored with pain, it's going to be released with pain. So it's not like we're having a free ride here. We're now going to be courageous to look at what we couldn't look at before. So there's an inherent discomfort. That's why I keep saying we're going to be comfortable. We're going to learn and grow to be comfortable with discomfort together. We're going to do this together. We're going to be able to learn and grow and become comfortable with discomfort so that we can behold it in the moment and release it. And it is going, it's not going to feel good, but it's okay. Because once it releases, and again, there's that letting go, that nuance of how do you do that thing? You just breathe into it and feel it rise up and out. And then a rush of energy will come in to fill and take its place. And you'll start to feel it eventually through your palms, and you'll feel this beautiful energy shooting through your heart, and this beautiful energy shooting through your third eye, and this beautiful energy shooting through the top of your head. And that is the way it's supposed to be. The energy is flowing uninterrupted, coursing through our system as we're one in clear seeing. But right now we're blocked and suppressed, and this is the work that we're sending out to do. Keep going with it.
Yeah. Thank you for that advice. I've been trying, well, not trying, but I've been learning and actually just loving everything, regardless of everything, every event as what is, and welcoming it as being a part of my experience. Everyone that I encounter, I just have a loving heart towards them and just accept them and bring them in as what is. And I've been learning to do that more, but I've been opening myself with a loving, more loving in the heart more. But sometimes judgment does come in, and I go into like feelings of judgment, and it makes me a little. I don't like to judge, because then that's drawing me back into the ego instead of opening me up to what is what I truly am, which is love and acceptance. And I'm just trying to veer away from the judgment, which is sometimes difficult based on what's happening, the circumstances, events, people that try to, come with negative feelings and effects towards you.
If I may just add, that judgment is the tail of the kite of something that's suppressed, right? So that's showing you there's something there to release, and then the judgment goes away on its own, because there's not that source that is producing the judgment. You see what I mean? And so the judgment by itself, I don't know that it solves it, just to say, stop having those thoughts. It's the tail of the kite. It's showing you that there's something deeper there that is cultivating the judgment. So the idea is to get to the source of the judgment, which is there's something there. It's asking to be looked at. seen through and released. And then the judgment falls away because we start to, the more this stuff is released and we kind of surrender to who we are and what everybody else is, there's a greater understanding of everyone is at a different place in their own growth. It kind of becomes our natural breathing techniques, like, there that is, and so I would just say that it's a symptom of a deeper dynamic.
Thank you.
So yeah, I have a few thoughts as well. First of all, I just want to say, like, I can tell a couple things. I think Lisette touched on this, that there's definitely something kind of heavy underneath it. There's a sort of karmic movement that feels like there, which we all have in our own ways, for sure. All of us. And the more clear you are, the more obvious these become. There can be these sort of karmic residues from who knows what, other lifetimes and so forth, that you're working out in this lifetime. And it could be around this overall overarching issue you described. And so that's what's what. It's just how it is. But I do want to say I commend you for how much compassion you bring to this. It sounds like even in spite of that can be a big challenge when your whole social group is kind of ostracizing you and it's not clear why and not sure what's happening there, and it's an ongoing issue. That's a hard thing to feel. Like, that's a hard thing to come and walk into work day to day and experience. At the same time, you're really doing your best to bring compassion to the experience. And I think that's awesome. Like, it's not I know that's not an easy place. But it's good work and it's important work. And that leads me to the answer to your question from my perspective of what to do about judgment. First of all, don't judge yourself for the judgment being there, because the judgments are thoughts. As Lisette did point out, that the thought is the tail of the kite, or I might say it's like the tip of something underneath the water, but they are thoughts. They're involuntary. You didn't decide. You're not the judgmental one. You're the one experiencing a thought that's judgmental in the moment. And it has to do with a lot of past experiences. It has to do with all kinds of things. So don't add judgment to yourself. It's just there. It'll come, it'll go. It's a thought, right? Getting a little bit into practicalities of how you can work with that in any given moment. Judgment toward a person, judgment toward a situation, even judgment toward yourself. If it comes up, you can remind yourself that this moment, the iteration of reality that's appearing right now, and all it is one iteration of the infinite experience, the infinite non-experience, reality unfiltered, appearing as it appears right now. That's all that's ever happening. Whatever it is, you're staring infinity right in the face. So infinity can be in the form of somebody who has maybe some pretty bad coping skills and they're taking it out on you. Maybe you're that, but that's Buddha with a mask on. That's Buddha nature wearing a mask. That's life showing you, here's an equanimity test right now. Can you be deeply understanding enough to be okay with the fact that this person's simply acting out their karma? It's not about you. It's not personal. It's not even really about them. They're acting out their karma. Who the heck knows what happened to them in this lifetime, how they were traumatized. And then that situation disappears, and now you're in another situation. And then maybe whatever's happening, another sort of judgment arises. I wish it wasn't like this. Why does it have to be this way? Why did this have to happen? Okay, wait a minute. I'm looking right into infinity right now. I'm looking into the face of realization, I'm looking into the face of reality, and it's showing me one more thing. That's all it's doing. It's just saying, can you be okay with this? Can you find a way to be okay with this right now? Can you find it in your heart? Can you find it in the space of this? Find that place to just say to yourself, oh, actually, no, there is a dimension of this that is really okay. I trust this. I trust this. It's not personal. It's not personal. None of this is personal. It's not. But it is an entry point. Everything is an entry point. Everything is showing you the face of the infinite. And it's saying, can this be okay with you right now? Can you at least acknowledge that you're staring into the face of Buddha? Because you are all the time. Yeah. So it's just a challenge. It's just a challenge moment to moment, It doesn't have to be a struggle, but it's more of an acknowledgement, more of a reaching deep inside and trusting that part of yourself that knows to try to come forward with compassion. Sometimes compassion is just full acceptance of going, there's no easy way through this conversation right now. This person feels heavy. They feel angry. I'm feeling their anger. I can't fix that. But there's also an element of this. There's a truth that behind that mask of anger, of conditioning that person's reacting out of, and maybe even I'm reacting out of, behind those masks, there's infinity. It's beyond all boundaries. It's beyond this human dimension. It's not personal. And it's kind of looking at itself right in the eyes. Like what's looking through those eyes and what's looking through these eyes, exactly the same. And knowing that, recognizing that every scene that moves before your eyes, every eventuality in life, every situation has a dimension of infinitude to it and eternity. And you're the adventurer in this body mind, in this life that feels so real and feels so personal, but it's not. You're the adventurer that can take up that adventure again and again and again. It's showing you how to unguard yourself, and that to be fully unguarded actually turns out fine. You'll be more creative. You'll be more fluid. You'll be more flexible in life when you just don't judge, right? But the way to non-judging is to see deeply, so deeply into what's happening that you see beyond the mask on that person, on that situation. You see beyond the interpretation. The interpretation can be there, the mask can be there, the behaviors and beliefs can be there, but you can also see beyond them at the same time. The deeper you see beyond them, the more this will just open up, open up, open up, open up.
Okay.
You have the heart for this.
Yeah.
You have a big heart. That's what I feel when I hear you speak. You have a big heart. Learn to live out of it more and more and more.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I'll move towards that. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you, Lisette. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Thanks for your question. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's go to Rula.
Hi, Angelo. Hi, Lisette.
Hi.
Hello. Haven't seen you in a
Hi.
while.
Oh, it's been a long time. I don't know. I guess I've been lifing a lot of new stuff going on. Yeah, crazy whirlwind. I put my hand down a couple of times, but Lavina encouraged me to put it back up. So I don't really know what the question is. It basically what everybody is saying and all your answers have addressed kind of what I'm feeling, which is severe anxiety that just goes on and on every day, all the time. It seems to be the only thing, and it's always here, and it's very, very deep. And I also resonated with what a lot of people said, including Richard, about that feeling of loneliness or emptiness, almost like this black hole inside. And I try to sit with it, knowing it's just a sensation. And I can see that it's related to ideas and thoughts. Sometimes the ideas and thoughts are just like a cloud. It's not very distinct necessarily, but I know it's an existential fear of future survival, something like that. And I know I've been here before and probably said the same thing in so many different ways. And I guess I just have to, I'm trying to sit with it. And I guess I'm afraid if I look too deeply here and find nothing, and that infinite blackness, almost like, I don't know. I remember what William Shatner said about space when he first went up there. And, he expected something so marvelous. And instead he had the fear of death in him, because he looked out at this black, empty nothingness, and he was like, ugh! And that's what it feels like, on a daily basis. I get it. And I do have to run away from it sometimes, because it feels like debilitating as far as like daily, kids and work and all that stuff. And I have a sense of like derealization, depersonalization a lot. So sometimes it's, and I've listened to your videos about dissociation and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's hard to, because it's this sensation and it feels so like scary, or I want to get rid of it, and I know I have to look at it, and it's a body thing, right? But at the same time, there's a sense of dissociation when I sit try to look into it, like the rest of the body is nowhere, or and then there's just this. It's just I'm not sure if I'm dissociating sometimes, and I don't know. There's a confusion there, and part of me just wanted to say this is the feeling, and just be here with you, and just sense it, or try to look at it, talking about.
Yeah, I can feel how heavy
Story.
it is.
I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I try to, I'm just, I'm afraid of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a couple things hit me as I was listening, and even right now. And one thing to say is, you can come into contact with the same experience over and over, and that's not a failure. It doesn't mean you're the mind will say, I'm going in circles. Why do I just keep coming back to this? But what's really happening usually is you're going deeper into it. You're going deeper. You're feeling it more and more directly. And it's at this point, it feels like there's only just a little bit holding back. There's something just like pointing at it going, what is that? I don't know what it is. I don't want to go there. And I'm scared of it, essentially, is what you're saying. And that's totally normal. It's normal to have that response because it is the unknown. It is the unknown. Yeah. And I know it's terrifying. I know it's scary. And I might even ask, how do you know there's any distance anymore anyway? How do you know there's distance between something that's aware of that experience and the experience itself? Maybe there's nowhere to go. Maybe you've already gone there. Maybe you already are there. Maybe this is it. What then? What does that mean? What would that look like if this is at the end of the line already? This is already the end of the road. You can't get farther into this. You're in it. You are it. It is it. That's what's happening. There's nothing more or less than this.
I mean, I guess there would be no movement towards anything, towards trying to get rid of it, or I mean, I sensed it when you said it in that moment. I sensed it.
It's not apart from you.
Laughing for a second when he said it.
Yeah, it's not apart from you. It's not apart from you. It's not something else. So it's all you. This whole thing, it's all you already.
So, you know, what you said now, like triggers I mean, it's like eased up. Not that that's what I was looking for, but that's what happened. And when you said that, it triggered a realization for a second, like that there's nowhere to go, right? But
yeah.
And that happens when I listen to sometimes your videos or to somebody else, or just, I don't know, it's not random, I'm sure, but it happens, these triggers, and then suddenly everything is a little more clear, a little, soft and unified. I'm just wondering, what is it that, makes, I guess there's no answer to that, but
that's right.
So why can't I sit here and do that and try to decide to do that, which is what I try to do, and then nothing, it gets worse sometimes. And then I'll just hear you say a word and suddenly I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's just the way the mind tries to make distance from things, and God love you. You're trying to honor that, to like hold a space to try to look at it and go, what is this? But I just want to say, you don't need to know what it is. It's not a what. It's only a what if you feel like you're apart from it. As soon as you're immersed in it, it's not a what. There's no what. There's no question left. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to solve, nothing to figure out anymore. So you can just go deeper into it. You can just it's an ocean. You are the ocean. The ocean is, you've already dissolved. You're like salt in the ocean. You've already dissolved into it. There's nowhere you can go that's not more of it. Doesn't matter if there's a thought or not anymore. Yeah. There
So
can be
when
all
you
kinds
guys,
of thoughts about it.
yeah. So when you guys say go deeper into it, whatever these emotions feel, whatever that thing is, it's never to ask the question, what is it necessarily, or not
Nope.
to ask it.
Yeah. Now, it's not making it an object because there's no subject to make it an object. It's just already everything. The door that you never wanted to open is the door that you've always wanted to open. It's a cosmic joke for real. So you're just immersing more and more into, there's not even a deeper because there's no deeper to go because it's already everything. So anywhere that moves, anywhere attention goes, however the thought moves, however reality moves right now is already it. There's not anything standing apart from it going, what is that? What is that? That's the illusion. It's a reflection of thoughts. And that can break. And then there's just that. And that you realize you were never apart from anything. But trying to be apart from it is exhausting. It takes up so much energy. It makes your life miserable. It causes anxiety. How can you make something that can never be apart try to be apart? You can't. It's impossible. So you've been trying to do the impossible. And now you can just rest, because it's just this. And you can feel it. I can tell you can feel it. It's important to feel it, not just conceptualize. This isn't conceptual.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Lisette, you got anything?
I so well remember when that existential terror arises. It is so painful. As when Aaron was describing that sense of, being an outcast or rejected by one's community. These really trigger and activate deep traumas and deep upsets. They are very painful. The existential terror about it's such a, in truth, it's such a beautiful place to be in awakening, because it shows you how close you are and how deep you are in the dissolving of the false self. Because when there is that sense of existential terror, of a dissolving, of a deconstruction of everything, it's the egoic self that is perceiving this. And in this one point, it's correct. Nothing else is it accurate about. But this one point, it is correct. It is dissolving. It is becoming annihilated, this false egoic sense. And so, yay, we're actually feeling the terror of the false self screaming about its own annihilation. So this is actually really good news, because it's falling away and it's kicking and screaming. And what's left, of course, is the true clear seeing. And that can never be annihilated. That's not going anywhere. That's not disintegrating. That's not dissolving. It's only that which is really the falsity of self is what's dissolving. So it's really hard to see that this is such a beautiful process in your growth right now, because you're going deeper and deeper and yet deeper into allowing this to just fall away. And this is where that letting go really comes in, because it's a complete, it's something that we don't feel intuitively to let go when we feel like we're dying. Right? You want to hold on when you feel like you're dying. You want to grasp, and hold on and go tighter and protect. But this is when we let go, and then it falls away.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I have that same sense with thought too, that if I let go of these thoughts, everything's going to fall apart. What's going to happen to my world? And then sometimes I let go of thought and nothing happens. Everything's fine. I still do what I have to do. It's the strangest thing. And I think you're right. I just have to do it from here.
That's the key.
Thank you both.
Do it from here. Do it from the most immediate experience always. Yeah. Wonderful. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got one more. Peter, let's do it.
Hi, Angelo. Hello. Seems like the theme today has been mostly shadow work and emotion work. And I've got a question. When I look back at my childhood, kind of looking for trauma, I was at a fairly young age. My parents were divorced, and I was put into a boarding school for 5 or 6 years, and rarely saw my mother and didn't see my father at all. And my mind wants to say, well, first, it would seem logical that that would create a lot of trauma for me at that age. But my mind wants to say, when I look at it, that I don't really feel anger or abandonment. That my mind wants to say, well, I was young and I just accepted it, and there was nothing negative about it. So I'm just wondering, can I show myself that there was in fact trauma involved that I can work on, or should I accept the fact that I'm not ready to look at it, or it's not there? I'm not quite sure how to investigate that.
What do you think, Lisette?
Life will show you. You don't have to worry about that, because as you become willing to wake up and to know the truth, and only the truth and nothing but the truth, life will say, okay, here comes something, and something will show you, whether it's whatever it is, it will activate something. And then as you follow, the Hansel and Gretel trail in uncovering the source of that upset, then you will know, is it from that, or maybe it's from something else. But as we become willing to really know the truth, we don't have to worry about how to do it or what direction to go in, because life is the brilliant teacher. The profundity of the things that arise to show us what we have to work on is so profound and so wise. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, we may end this Zoom and tomorrow something could present itself, which will show you where the work is needing to be done. So it's so beautiful, because your question really shows and is announcing, I'm ready to know the answer to the question, whatever it is. Maybe it's that, maybe it's something else. You will know, because you're now ready.
Well, I guess I would say, are you saying that maybe I'm not ready to look at it, or that that now's not the time?
It's always the time. It's time. It's always the time. And just by your question, I think that's proof positive that you are ready to see clearly. And how that will play itself out isn't really up to you or anybody else, but you can take heart that you can trust life to show you what to work on next. It may be this, it may be something else that needs to be uncovered first, but now that you were willing and you're talking about it, you have to be willing, and it's always time. And good for you. And you can trust life to show you, and it will.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, my inclination was to say exactly the same thing, is trust this moment right now so utterly that no thought can drive a wedge. What needs to present itself will definitely present itself. It will open up. And if the mind starts going, well, wait a minute, but this and but that, so those are thoughts. That's okay. They're there. They're thoughts. Feel into what's actually happening. Stay really experience close to this moment. However that needs to work for you, however that needs to happen for you. And then you maintain that sort of congruence with presence. Could even almost call it like a covenant with presence. As you maintain that congruence, that relationship, which is so immediate that there's, like I said, there's no room for thoughts about time. There's no room for thoughts about doubt, really. It will show you what you need to see, show you what you need to feel, and that's it.
Okay. Guess I've got my marching orders.
Yeah.
You got it, buddy. Nice to see you again. And just slightly over time, but we did really well. Lisette, you're awesome. Thank you. That was so wonderful. You did so well. And I had no doubt, but it was just really cool to see you in action. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Angelo, a couple people texted me asking
Yeah.
me my last name. And I don't know how to respond on the
Okay, well,
Zoom.
here's the thing. I usually give you the opportunity to put your contact info and I can put it on the video or wherever you want to say, but just understand this goes on to YouTube and thousands of people will see it. So if you want, we can just talk afterward and I can put any kind of contact information with the video
Sure.
description, or
Sure.
we can just, okay, let's do it that way, just so I don't want to like blow you up.
Okay, somebody asked me my book title and my last name, so
Sure.
it's
We will
Larkins.
definitely put your book titles there for sure. So
Okay.
book title,
Hybrid-
let's say we,
Yeah, it's
Go
just
ahead.
the hybrid prophecy, and my last name is Larkins, Larkins,
and where is the book available?
on Amazon.
Amazon. All right.
Hey,
I've
thank
heard
you,
good
everybody.
reviews. Yeah. I've heard good reviews about this book. I haven't read it myself, but a few of the founders have read it and they all seemed to really dig it. So I know it's a good one. I know it's a page turner.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lisette. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for your honesty, your vulnerability, your questions, sharing. I do appreciate it. Again, Double Barrel Non-Duality, we do it once a month with a guest speaker. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for your support.